What happens when a Grandmaster plays unfocused, mindless blitz games? Well, you're about to find out because, well, I'm a Grandmaster and some weeks ago I did find nothing better to do than to play a bunch of mindless blitz games in a row. And even though I won some rating points, I have to say my rating is absolutely terrible for a Grandmaster, I did make some absurdly stupid mistakes. And I want to make this video to first of all, punish myself a little bit for this stupid mindless playing, but more importantly, show you why you shouldn't play mindless games either, and how by just asking some super simple questions, you can erase most of the stupid mistakes you might do as well. In the first position I want to show you, I get a Caro-Kann exchange, knight on e5, and my opponent goes knight to d7. So now I could ask myself, well, what's the idea of knight to d7? Well, you can think for yourself. It's pretty obvious with this one, right? The knight is attacking e5 and just black threatens to win a pawn on e5. Now, in my automatic mode, I just went queen e2. We'll see later why I played queen e2. And once my opponent took on e5, and took back, I realized that yes, I do attack the e5 piece twice, but I don't want to give up my queen. So I just lost a pawn. So that's very bad. I just played in this automatic mode. Why did I do that? Because queen c7 is usually the move that many black players play here. And then queen e2 is good, right? Because I'm getting the queen, right? If we see the same thing, this doesn't work anymore because now I trade the queens and I won a piece. So I just didn't think. I was just relying on my automatic responses. Oh yeah, when black attacks e5, I just cover it with queen e2 and I'm fine. Well, it doesn't work in this way. So on knight e7, the very easy, simple way is playing bishop f4 first. And if my opponent now plays queen here, I can go queen e2. Now it makes sense again. So it's really just about understanding what is my opponent's idea, what can I do against it, and not to just mindlessly play a move. Second example, and this is arguably even worse. Yes, I already have a terrible position. This has gone bad already, but I don't need to lose immediately. So in this position, I can ask myself, what is black's idea? What is black's idea? Black's idea is bishop takes f1. That's a pretty obvious idea, okay? So bishop takes f1, I take back, the knight on a4 is hanging. So I managed to think this far. But then I just played bishop b3. And now my question to you, why is bishop b3 so bad? If I use my brain, I will find it. Bishop to b5, and the a4 knight is hanging, and I can't move it anymore. There's no knight b6, no knight c5, no knight c3. I just resigned. I think that was even the last game because I really had enough. I was like, okay, if I can't even see that, it's too much at this point. So I just need to find a way to stop bishop takes f1, and to have on bishop b5, I need to have the b3 move, that at least I only lose a pawn. So I can play, for example, knight to g3. That would be a move. Or I can play b3 immediately, right? I just don't want to miss that I lose a whole knight. I can also play knight e3, I think. No, actually, again, knight e3 is a problem because here we can see bishop to e2 is a threat. If I go over, takes on a4, takes. That might be not so easy for some of you at home, but for a Grandmaster, I believe I should see that. And yes, I am a Grandmaster. I didn't buy my title on Wish. It's just when I don't use my brain, I don't play good chess. Okay, let's move on. So in this position right here, black has just played knight to c5. Okay, I'm an exchange down at the moment. Not great. And I can't really take on c5, pawn takes, queen takes, and the knight on f3 is hanging. So sometimes it can be a little bit more advanced. In this position, I play knight to d2. So probably my opponent might have been thinking, but very shallowly, right? So my opponent might think, oh, the knight is not hanging anymore, so the only idea white has is takes here. Now, asking you guys, what is the second idea that I have in this position? If white had a second move, what would it be? The answer is knight to c4 is very strong. That is my biggest threat, right? I'm down an exchange, so even if I take on c5 and get this pawn, not really that happy. The real threat here is knight to c4, and then I'm attacking d6, and then I want to sacrifice on d6 and then take c5, keep my bishop, and that already looks better. So here, black needs to find a move that stops knight c4. And b5 comes to mind. So b5 would be a very nice move. Yes, I can win back a pawn at least. But after rook c8, my queen is somewhere out of the game. I need to play maybe queen e3. I'm still down an exchange for a pawn. Black is much better here. So this would be a good way to play. What did black do instead? Just the automatic move, right? Just like really playing without thinking much. Rook to c8. Now knight c4 is coming. And now the problem is that this is hanging, and even after rook to d8, I can take on c5. And now at least I have proper counterplay. Rook d8, I can now go knight a4 as well. I played b4, and this is, objectively speaking, already slightly better for white. Actually, I see something here. We both missed that. What is white doing here? White has bishop b7. So even further than the example I wanted to show, we both missed that. That's actually also pretty simple, right? A fork. White is winning back the exchange because you don't want to give up the f6 knight, and then I'm just a pawn up and I'm actually winning or doing much better at the very least. So yeah, we both missed quite a lot in this game. This example right here is a good example of what happens if we don't think about the ideas of our opponent. So our opponent makes a move and we kind of treat them like, well, you anyway have no idea, just go away. So my opponent plays bishop to g4. Okay, I sacrificed a piece that was a bit fancy, didn't really work. I'm already worse, I understand that, but what I did is just absolutely terrible. So my opponent plays bishop to g4, and now we can ask ourselves, okay, when our opponent plays bishop g4, what is the most absolutely super obvious move for white? Well, it's playing f3 and trying to push away this bishop. Right? I even thought for like 10 seconds, I played f3. Now we could ask ourselves, okay, we should do that before playing f3. What could my opponent have planned? In my brain, it was just, well, the bishop goes back. No, it's not that. What can black do here? Black can do knight b3. This knight is pinned, attacking the rook, attacking this knight. And if I take on g4, that was the game. Knight takes c1. If I take back, black takes on d4. I'm a full rook down. Totally lost. Okay, I still played some moves. You can see that I wasn't in the best headspace this day and just lost the game. So here, black is playing bishop to g4. We gotta ask ourselves, what is the idea? And not just make a random move, right? What could black want to do? Black wants us to provoke f3 and then play knight b3. So we need to find a different move. Finding a different move is not as easy in this position because, for example, if we move rook e1, then there is this fork right here. Oops. And if we move rook d2, then there's this fork right here. Oh no, that's not existing. You see? You see? You see? I'm making a mistake. So rook d2 looks already more logical in this position. We keep the protection. There is no fork on b3 because there is no pin. And at least we can play on. Like, we have two pawns for a piece. It wasn't a great sacrifice that I did, but I can play on. Okay, next one, and enough with the self-bashing. The last two examples, luckily my opponents also make some of these mistakes. So in this position, black plays a4, and this is again a position where there is a very, very obvious idea to a move, and sometimes there is a little bit less obvious idea to a move that we also need to register just by, well, as it's written there, using our brain. I sometimes don't do it. I know it's not easy, but it's kind of cool. We have a brain, we can use it. That's kind of a very secret, idea in chess improvement. Okay, I play queen b1 here. Okay, now think for yourself. Queen b1, what is the obvious idea of queen b1? And what is the little bit more hidden idea? The move has two purposes. Okay, purpose number one, well, black just played a4, right? My pawn is hanging on b3 and I play queen b1. Looks like I want to take back that pawn. Makes some sense. The second idea is that the queen is now aligned with the bishop and bishop takes g6 is a threat, or at least an idea to really put this king into big troubles, right? So if black would think about that, it's one of the ideas is, for example, just going king to h7. Why not, right? At least we are stopping this move. What my opponent did in the game was just playing rook a5. I don't even understand that move that much. And I took on g6 and won the game because after takes, king f8. There are many winning moves here. The attack is way too strong. I gave a check and then played rook f2. And now these pawns are just absolutely running. The rook on a5 is totally useless. King is weak and white is winning the game. So that was pretty good for white. Now, what can black do as well? We talked about king h7. Sometimes there are a bit more hidden resources. Again, when using the engine, you can find those, but it's not that easy. Queen d7 is what the computer shows. If you would look at it with the computer, the idea is to give this queen g4 check and come into a counterattack, saying, okay, I see bishop takes g6. I see the idea of doing it, okay? But I have queen g4 check here, and then I'm not even taking back, but I just attack myself. This is advanced, this is computer stuff. If you just look at a human thinking process, king h7 or king h8, both make a lot of sense in this position when we see the threat of bishop takes g6. Last but not least, and this one is kind of different because it's not something tactical, but just when I played my move and I saw the move of my opponent, I was like, why did I play this move? That doesn't make any sense. So sometimes we can really just play a move, not think what could be the answer from our opponent, and then it doesn't make sense. So in this position, I played bishop to g4. Now, question to you. After bishop to g4, what would be one of the most logical ways for white to respond? White can just play h3 and push that bishop away, right? Like, it's quite obvious move. Because do I really want to trade this bishop for this knight on e2 that is standing horribly bad? No, I don't, right? So what I did is actually move away my bishop. Again, terrible square. And what happened is, oops, my opponent even took on d4, and this is winning a pawn because now I'm not covering e3 anymore. So I really did everything bad in this position. If I would ask myself, before playing bishop g4, is it smart to play bishop g4, h3, and then bishop away, or should I just put the bishop away? Why is it the difference, you might ask? Well, if I just play bishop d7, for example, then I always have the g4 square for my knight, because I can attack the queen. So tactics don't work, and this idea is always annoying for my opponent. So what could white do in this position? White could do h3 to avoid knight g4. So now we really understand that bishop g4, forcing h3 and then moving back, is such a bad idea. So it's just about thinking shortly, what does my opponent want to do? Or is this smart, right? It's really all about using our brain and not relying purely on pattern recognition or intuition or what feels good in that moment. I hope you take away a few things from this video. First of all, if you're feeling stressed, distracted, not in the right mood, maybe playing chess is not the right thing, right? Find something else that is less competitive, where you care less about your result, because it will just make things worse. At least in my personal experience, playing a blitz marathon of 27 games and playing badly, even if I win 50 rating points, leaves a bitter taste. And I'm just feeling like I wasted time, I wasted energy, and feel even worse afterwards. So don't do that. The second thing is, well, there is this secret that we have a brain, and if we play chess, it's pretty good to use it. And I really say that kind of half ironically, half seriously, because I feel when I look at many of my students' games, often we don't really think. And when I see how I play blitz, when I occasionally do, well, I'm not really thinking. So actually thinking, using our brain power is just so good in chess. It really solves a lot of problems. And when you start thinking, then you can ask yourself two simple questions. First question is, what is my opponent's idea? What are they trying to do? Because sometimes they really give it away with a move. They kind of attack a piece, attack a pawn, and we just need to ask ourselves, what is their idea? We find it, we can avoid it before it's too late. And the second thing is, before you make a move, before you just start playing a mindless move or you think, oh yeah, I'm such a genius, let's make this move, shortly ask yourself, what move do I expect from my opponent? Like, what is the move that I'm expecting from my opponent? Because sometimes if we just ask this question, we see the most obvious move and we see that our move doesn't make sense anymore. We can play a different move. Here's to less brainless games if you feel stressed, maybe just go for a walk, do some yoga, do a meditation, whatever helps you, read a book, but don't play chess and make it worse. See you next time.